Hello and welcome to an inaugural episode of the V's Perspective. In this episode, which I seek to launch weekly, I'll look at major issues of international relations, but also look at the important issues which sort of crisscross with international relations increasingly. And in this inaugural episode, I'm not deeply diving too much into issues of international relations, but peripheral issues, but yet intrinsic to international relations. And one of such issues is how relationship between media, democracy, and uh, international relations and domestic politics sort of interplay, particularly in an election cycle. Now, I have taken the uh, the decision to launch an inaugural episode on this issue because both in India and in the United States, we are staring at election cycles, and not just in these two states, but these two states primarily because they are democracies. One is the largest and the other is the oldest. So I think we need to explore the intricate relationship between media, democracy, and how it impacts international relations. But this episode, of course, will focus on India's interests. What are India's interests? Where does India stand on some of these issues of international relations? Uh, and how does it impact India's interests domestically as well as abroad? Social media, AI, um, increasingly, I also think that the use of technology and emerging technologies, particularly AI, will influence democracies in a big way. And I seek to sort of take that in future episodes. But in this inaugural episode, let me first try and sort of synthesize what the relationship between media and democracy means for international relations, particularly from an Indian standpoint. So I'm your host, Vivek Mishra. I am a fellow at the Observer Research Foundation in New Delhi. My primary expertise is Americas, but I also, on and off, veer off trajectory to look at issues of India's issues like India's security in the Indo-Pacific and what is America's role in the Indo-Pacific and so forth. But in this, let me start by delving into the complexities of how the West perceives and measures democracy in India and why a standard approach may not be the right kind of approach for the West. So let's start by addressing a common misconception: the belief that there exists a universal model of democracy that fits all nations. The West often champions this standardized version, assuming that assuming it to be a gold standard for governance. However, in recent events, in recent past and recent events have shown that global dynamics have uh, impacted the domestic politics of several countries in ways that were unimaginable in the past. So, when it comes to India's perspective, uh, take, for example, the diverse spectrum of democracies across the world. In an age where nations vary significantly in development, economic status, and environmental challenges like climate change, it's impractical to apply one size fits all approach. India, with its unique blend of cultures, languages, and socioeconomic disparities, exemplifies this diversity within democracy. Yet, despite this diversity, Western media outlets such as particularly, uh, and I'm conscious that I'm naming a few here, such as the BBC and the Financial Times most recently, often utilize Western-centric metrics to evaluate Indian democracy. They measure success and failure based on criteria that may not fully encapsulate the nuances of India's society and governance. Let's consider, for example, the West may scrutinize India's democratic processes through a lens of electoral transparency or press freedom and so forth. However, this overlooks the socio-cultural context and historical complexities that shape India's democratic journey. The West must recognize that India and Western nations operate under vastly different conditions. India faces unique challenges, including massive population diversity, regional disparities, and a complex socio-political landscape. For instance, India's federal structure, where power is distributed between central government and states, requires a nuanced understanding. What may seem like a democratic deficit at the national level might be a result of intricate balance of power between the federal and the state authorities. It is crucial for the West to accommodate these differences and engage with India on equal footing, respecting its sovereignty and acknowledging its democratic evolution. Dialogue and cooperation, therefore, is essential rather than casting aspersions. The relationship between media, democracy, and international relations in the context of India underscores the need for a more nuanced approach. The West must move away from a rigid, standardized view of democracy and embrace the diversity and complexity of democratic systems worldwide. With this, let me thank all of you for joining me. These are short takes that I'll be taking on different subjects, on different topics, for better understanding and outlining and underscoring India's position on various issues of global politics, which often sort of crisscross with domestic politics and security of nations. So thank you for joining, and I I look forward to taking up another topic in the next segment. Thank you.